Hello, hello. What is going on? Good evening. It is July 29th, 2020. I almost said 2018. I have no idea why. But here we are for the Dispatchers Roundtable. This is going to be round 7. And of course, we have to start out with a word from our sponsors because I would not be able to do everything that I do right now if it wasn't for the sponsors as well as the patrons. So thank you all for everything. And I'm going to bust this open here. InDigital is on a mission to improve the 911 industry. Our goal is to create something better to go above and beyond the current standards. Our passion for creating the most advanced, well-designed solutions led to our position as an industry leader in next-gen core services. For the millions of calls processed over our emergency IP networks, to our Text for 911 solution, Texty, to our disaster recovery and backup solution, Mevo, it's easy to see we love what we do. For more information, check us out at www.indigital.net. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, InDigital, for sponsoring the Dispatchers Roundtable. And we are about to get started because, I've been teasing who the keynote speakers are for the Dare to Be Great 2 conference in October, and we're doing the reveal today. So let me hit that music, and we're going to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Dispatchers Roundtable. I can see my speakers in the green room. That's amazing. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Dispatchers Roundtable. This is going to be round 7. Once again, we are sponsored by InDigital, and I'm going to throw up here some branding. There's that and that. Kablamo. Here we go. We are about to get started. So we have got a lot that we're going to talk about, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to go ahead and start with each one. I'm going to bring them up one at a time, and then once they're all on, I'm going to give them a chance to just kind of share some information about themselves so that you can learn more about the keynote speakers that are going to be the highlight starting out each day for Dare to Be Great 2, which will be October 6th through the 9th. So here we go. The first one. Now, remember, when I have been putting everything out there, I've just been doing either like a city or a state, and I haven't said anything else. A lot of you have been guessing and guessing, and a lot of you, some of you have been right, and I have not said yes or no, because as you all know, I like to throw out a lot of teasers. Yeah, that's right. I like to tease. Well, okay, let's keep going. So my first guess, who I have put up there as DC. Here we go. All right.
Hi.
Hello. This is Karima Holmes, and she's the director of the Office of United Communications. How's it going?
It's going as good as a Wednesday at 8:00 p.m. goes.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So now we've got our next guest, and I'm pretty sure I put him out there as Louisiana. I should have put New Orleans, but I think that would have been a little, So here we go. Here's Louisiana. Oh, snaps. Very nice. This is Tyrell Morris, Executive Director with Orleans Parish Communication District out of Louisiana. What's going on, man?
Hey, Ricardo. Hey, Karima. Hey, everybody.
Hey there. Hey, Ty.
How you all doing?
This is
okay.
Doing good, and we got people in the comments already saying hello to you all. So this is excellent. And now, last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Tennessee. Here we go.
Is this thing on? Hey.
And
how are y'all, man?
We lost Karima.
Oh no!
I sent her
back.
She's got the link, so hopefully she's able to pop back on here. But Mr. Tennessee, Jameson Peavyhouse, the training coordinator for Tennessee Emergency Communications Board. What is going on, man?
Not much, Mr. CEO. How are you?
Uh, yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. This is going to be a lot of fun. Here we go. There she is.
There she
I hit the X again, Jamie. I hit the red X. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, that is funny. Well, welcome back. We're going to get this started. We've got a lot of people joining us here. Please make sure if you're watching and even in the replay, make sure to throw in some reactions. Please share this broadcast. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. The three that I have here with me are the keynote speakers for Dare to Be Great 2. That's going to be going on October 6th through the 9th. I am crazy excited for this. I think I called each one of you the same day. This was months ago, before I even put out the trailer for all of this that was coming out. And I remember after every single conversation, and I got off the phone, I was like, yes, yes. This is going to be good. So I am very excited. Karima, if we can start with you to give an intro to the audience on a little bit of your public safety background, please.
Sure. So I am currently in DC. I have been here. I'll hit 5 years in January, and I'll be the longest lasting director at DC. So. My team owes me a party, right? But I came originally from Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. That's why I started my career there for about 12 years. Then I moved to DeSoto, Texas, which is in Dallas County, Texas, and ran a regional 911 center called Southwest Regional Communication Center. I was there about 4 years. I did every single position in a 911 center: call taker, dispatcher, sergeant, lieutenant, training, QA, acting director, managing director, and now director at DC, one of the fun 911 centers.
Very nice. Yes. And, I've been there, and I remember when I went into the room that we were sitting in, I went and looked out the window, and I remember my jaw dropped, and I just thought, wow, this one little section right here is what my dispatch center was. Yeah, it is pretty awesome to see. Now, Tyrell, if you can give us a little background on you, please.
Absolutely. My name is Tyrell Morris. I'm the executive director of the Orleans Parish Communication District. Here is home of New Orleans 911 and 311, where our city is known to throw the biggest free party in the world, known as Mardi Gras. Our city welcomes about 18 million visitors a year. We answer about 1 million calls a year here at the center. My experience, 911, I've been the executive director. In a few weeks, I'll be coming up on 2 years. I've been with the agency for about 3.5. Prior to that, I've had career stops at Fairfax County Department of Public Safety Communications. I've done 9 years in the Fire and Rescue Department in Prince William County. I've also did a stint working in theme parks. I used to work with the Walt Disney Company, Six Flags, Palace Entertainment, and I'm a graduate of the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in DC. And I lived in DC and met Karima right before I came to New Orleans. And we're just having a good old time down here in the South.
Perfect. Very nice. And I'm going to take you up on what you had mentioned to me in the episode that we recorded when you said, if I'm ever down there, to stop by and check out your center. I definitely want to check that out. Jameson, please, a summary on yourself.
Oh, Lord. About 25 years in the industry, starting out with being a telecommunicator on midnight shift. So spent several years there, and like Karima, trainer, supervisor, director. And I used to tell folks I was supervisor, and they demote me to director and put you in an office, and you can't be on the floor anymore. And it was the worst thing. And then left there after about 20 years and came to work for the state of Tennessee. And I am the state's statewide training coordinator for our TECB, the Tennessee Emergency Communications Board. And my role basically is to assist locals. We have 146-ish PSAPs across the state, and assist them with their training needs to make sure they're meeting the requirements, and also to establish in-person training and online training.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, welcome all three of you. And again, for those of you who have joined us, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we're going to be talking about a few different, several different topics here, but I wanted you to meet the keynote speakers. I wanted you to kind of find out a little bit, just a little taste of what they're going to be talking about as well. on each day, because they're going to be starting out the day for the rest of the time and the rest of those training sessions. And it's really going to, kind of set the tone of how the day is going to go. And the first one was so good, but the second one is going to be just as great. And I'm excited for it. So, Karima, if we can start out with you, what is just, again, just a little taste of what it is that you're going to be talking about for yours.
So I think what I'm going to be talking about is a question that I've been asked a lot, which is how do you actually execute transformational change? How do you become a transformational leader, and that comes from either walking into an organization that's in disarray, or walking into an organization that has been perceived as having no order, which is kind of what I've witnessed with DC. I walked in and realized before I came in and took the job, I was like, oh my goodness. I read all these articles and I'm like, I'm going to have to get in there. And I walked in and I realized they're operating just like every other 911 center. What was the lack? What was missing was the education and the transparency. And so I'm just going to talk about that and how you do that while pleasing callers, customers, executives, stakeholders, police and fire departments, and the most important asset, your employees. And so that was something that I've been able to get through in the agency. And I know we have the old saying that you can't please everyone. That is very true, but you can please the majority. And so I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I've learned and some of the tactics and easy ways and corners I was able to cut and create to do transformational change in a large organization or an organization of any size.
Perfect. No, that'll be good, because that's one of the things as well. When you're doing these talks and all, you want to throw something out there that people can take back with them. And I'm already. Is it October yet? Because there's a lot of stuff that you guys are going to talk about that is exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, Tyrell, what are you going to be, kind of focusing on a little bit of what you're going to be talking about?
So the title of my keynote right now, and I'm known for winging it, but right now today, the title is called "The Value of a Difficult Conversation." And 911, particularly over the last 6 months, has kind of been redefined. This COVID-19 pandemic has presented us with some new challenges, but also some new opportunities to demonstrate our value as an industry. But we're finding that the industry as a whole internally has reached a point where kind of stagnant. We have some conversations that we need to have internally about what 911 is, what it should be, and what it can be. And that those conversations seem to be very difficult because it puts some people in a place of discomfort. But that's okay. We only grow in our places when we're uncomfortable. But facilitating that difficult conversation is an art. And it's not everybody has mastered that. And so we're going to talk about how to facilitate those difficult conversations, because the only way that this industry is going to evolve and continue to meet the needs of our people is if we lead with bravery. We have to lead with bold, brave leadership. This industry is no longer going to allow people who are okay with status quo, okay with being stagnant, okay with just doing things because we've always done it that way. That type of language is no longer acceptable, and our citizens, the people we take an oath to serve, no longer will accept that from us. And so we have got to get to a point where we're going to have those difficult conversations around what the industry is and what we demand of ourselves. So we'll talk about that.
That's awesome. And that's a very good point, because there are many different aspects of public safety where, let's see, I was just going to go ahead and say it. Like the old guard is going out. It's a new day, man. Yeah. And there are many different ways that we're finding our footing in moving forward in so many different aspects. And you're right that there is an art to difficult conversation, and especially it makes me think of being in dispatch and stuff, and speaking with callers and finding a way to almost be ninja-like to articulate exactly what you want without pissing that person off even more than what they already are, to be able to, get what you need, the answers to your questions, to be able to get out to everyone. But yeah, no, that is going to be an excellent one as well. Yes, this is going to be good. And in the comments, people are already like, yeah, this is awesome. So this is going to be good. Now, Jameson, how about yourself? What is it that you're going to be, talking about?
Well, first of all, we're going to talk about how flipping hot it is out here in my garage. So, because it is ridiculously hot out here in Tennessee, y'all. Now, one of my very favorite things to speak about is how do we, if we really want to lead our teams better and we want to change the industry, we want to change the dynamics of our folks, because people come to us and typically new telecommunicators that maybe it's their first actual career. We have the chance to invest in these people so that they can have a better life when they finally leave 911. Nobody really stays here until they, croak. Typically, they leave after 5, 6, 8 years. So how do we invest in those people? And that starts with investing in yourself. So I'm going to talk about how do you invest in yourself right now, how that investment is ongoing. You're constantly making deposits into that investment so that you can lead your team and change your culture inside your comm center, inside your family, inside your community. And I think those things are extremely important because Tyrell is right. Things have really changed quickly in 2020. And heaven help us for 2021, because I don't know what's left. There's a volcano, I'm sure, somewhere in Yosemite that's going to pop its head up next year, or whatever.
Dude.
But between now and then, we're going to teach ourselves how to invest in ourselves for the betterment of our team. I think it's pretty important.
Right. No, exactly. And building on that and really just segueing into the next piece of this, especially because, of your position as well. I want to kind of focus right now at the moment on the importance of training, and especially during this time. There's a lot of things that have been canceled. People are thinking outside of the box, a different way to be able to give back, and also for centers to be able to continue to get that training to all of their dispatchers and call takers. So, just to start out, in your thoughts, in your mind, what is the importance of training, especially now?
Well, I would start just by saying that we've seen a pretty drastic swing in training when we started with COVID. And then a lot of our training was really focused on stress management and personnel management and HR issues and how are we going to take care of our staff? How are we going to solve some staffing crises? And what happens if we have to lay some of our folks off or they become sick? But then it kind of changed as we kind of changed the world a little bit. And we started seeing some civil unrest, and we started seeing, these large scale protests, and how does that change public safety? And so then we changed to, okay, how do we support public safety response? How do we do that during the same exact thing? We're managing multiple emergencies going on. And one of the key aspects about COVID for us in training was for emergency managers, we anticipate, there's a preparation, there's a response phase that's typically small compared to the overall process. There's a recovery phase that lasts a pretty good while, and then we have a mitigation phase. With COVID, the response phase hasn't stopped, and we're still seeing that. As a matter of fact, we're seeing it become worse and worse. It's almost like we've been in the eye of the hurricane, and we're just waiting for that back wall to hit us. And so I think it's very interesting for us to see that. Our training in Tennessee, we don't really mandate they take certain courses. We make it available to them. And it's interesting to see what telecommunicators are taking, and it gives us a little bit of a vision inside of their mindset about what they're worried about. And so that was really important for us here in Tennessee.
I can see all of that, how it's working out. It's hard for me on this side sometimes because I'm not in the center anymore. So I'm on the outside looking in. But in a lot of conversations like this and seeing how different centers, different organizations are responding to all of this. And Karima, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this kind of, building on what Jameson said, but also, your thoughts on the importance of training?
So I completely agree with what Jamie said. And I was actually thinking about how we have just changed as an industry on what we train on. One of the things specific to COVID that I have found that I will keep going past COVID or if we ever get past it. We will. But one of the things that I did was we didn't know. So we're a horizontal center. So I have call takers and then I have a fire dispatchers and fire and EMS dispatchers and MPD, and they don't do each other's job, right? And so what we did was we cross-trained. We just volunteers, let's cross-train, and you learn how to call take, you learn how to fire dispatch, just in case COVID comes in and takes out one of my divisions, or we have too many people out on quarantine. And so what we have found is it really helps when a police dispatcher understands fire talk. We didn't realize how beneficial that was. And so I think that is something that we're going to do. We've actually implemented, we have a new dispatcher training coming up, and we usually split them up. So we hire, let's say 20 people come in for a class, 10 do fire, 10 do police. We're actually going to train them all to do dispatch, and then they'll get assigned police or fire. Wow. And then they can back each other up. But I think we should do that anyway. So this is the first center I worked at that was horizontal. In Dallas and in Georgia, both those centers were vertical. And so everyone, today I'm a fire dispatcher, tomorrow I'm police. And I realized the knowledge base was so much more beneficial when everyone knew everyone else's job. So if I'm a police dispatcher and someone keys up and tells me, they have a dumpster fire, right? I know the dumpster code because I'm a fire dispatcher too. And it's easier to put the call in, right? And so those type things are important. It's also important because when you're a call taker and you've worked police dispatch, you already know what the officer's going to ask. You already know that if it's a cross street, they want to know what side of the cross street they're on. Like, these things because you worked in dispatches. Call takers who have never dispatched, they just know call take. They don't realize the dynamics of a radio conversation. And so that has really been beneficial. And I think that that's actually one of the good things that's come out of COVID. We've been way more versatile than we've ever been. My team has been very, very giving, which is really surprising to me. Dispatchers, call takers, we all can be very stubborn, but I have learned that they are very, very giving. A lot of people signed up for this cross training. And it was volunteer. Just come in a couple of hours early, come in a couple of hours late, learn this training, they've done it. So I think that that's a model. And I think that that's going to be overall where we go as an industry, is really getting out of the box, right? And making sure that our teams are trained across the board. So I think that's definitely one thing that I think is really positive as far as training during these times. That's
awesome. So when I was dispatching still, we did all disciplines, and it makes me wonder, how it would have been if I was, call taking only, or even doing medicals only, and then going to another place and then trying to figure that out and thinking, wow, like it would be better if I knew everything. So that's awesome that you're doing it that way. And man, the fact that everyone is, like volunteering as well to be able to learn all of it. I mean, that says a lot right there too. I think ultimately, even though we can sometimes be, that dysfunctional family sometimes in there, when it hits the fan, everyone's working like a well-oiled machine, because we're all there doing the same thing. The ultimate goal, getting someone help, making sure that the people that are going out there are safe, that they have all the information, and that there is nothing left to chance, when we're doing all of this. So cross-training, hell yes, all about that. Very much so. Now, Tyrell, how about you? How about you on this and the importance of training, especially now during, the pandemic?
Yeah, so one of the observations I've made recently is that a lot of the training product that is either built by the agencies or in the industry, our teams are being trained to comply, not trained to produce or perform. They're being trained to follow rules instead of trained to meet objectives. And so what we have taken the approach here, we actually have a recruit class starting in the next week. And so I've said to the training team, I want to make sure that we are teaching the standards, but we're testing the objectives. And so I relate it to like a plumber, right? When a call taker or an employee joins the agency, we give them a tool belt. My job as the employer is to make them experts on those individual tools and teach them how to apply the tool to the problem that's presented when the phone rings or the officer keys up. We have to get out of this. When the officer says this, you type this, you send this, you say this. that regimented marching works most of the time, but we fail when things don't go to script and they don't have the bandwidth to kind of maneuver to the thing. This didn't come. This is not textbook, so they don't know how to respond, so they freeze. And so we've adopted the model. We're going to teach the standard, but test the objective. So an example came in the other day about, and getting an address. And my response is, as long as they get the right address, I'm not really concerned of how they did it. Did you use the Rapid SOS portal? Did you get phase 2? Did you look up the phone number and found an address that they called from last time and it's close to what they're calling from now, so we're going to go with it? We got to have a better idea or handle on situational. One thing COVID taught us is not every day is the same. Every day we come to work with a new challenge, and our team has had to become very limber in how they respond to that changing scenario. When COVID first started here in New Orleans, when we first had our largest impact, at one day, 60% of our EMS personnel were out of commission. So imagine over half of your fire and rescue EMS staff out, done. We found ourselves in a pickle. We had to get real creative, but we had no rules, we had no policies, we never imagined that day coming. So, but now we do. So we're changing our paradigm, and I think the industry has to adapt that as well. We have to teach the standard, but test the objective. But more importantly, we all got to agree on the standard.
And how do we do that?
Have difficult conversations with each other.
There you go.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, like, they were traveling to some state and they called 911 because someone was having difficulty breathing, and the call taker said, okay, we'll send someone out and disconnect it. And they could not believe that. And I said, well, EMD doesn't happen across the entire country, only not everywhere. And they said to me, well, why? Because the 911 community has not come together to say, and it's not a I'm unwilling. It's about resources and training, but we as a community have to agree that if you call 911 in this great country, that you can at least get emergency medical dispatch instructions. In 2020, you mean to tell me we're not doing that? So those are the kind of difficult conversations we're going to have to have, and either we get it right or some regulator going to come along and tell us we got to.
Yeah. We don't, and you don't want that for sure. So then we have those difficult conversations and we figure that stuff out. Now, talking about, continuing to talk about the training and everything, there's a comment here in the audience that's talking about, like, what methods are being used for the new delivery of training. Now, this isn't just their, the outside. I'm assuming it means like outside training. How are you getting that to come in? What are some of the things that you're doing to deliver new training to your dispatchers and call takers?
Yeah, I had a hard time saying that our next recruit class would be virtual, so we just shortened. We just made the number smaller so we could properly socially distant, and we provided masks to everybody because I was not willing to sacrifice quality just to get the numbers. We also talked about running 2 simultaneous classes, maybe a morning class and then an evening night class at the same time. But we just said we did not want to sacrifice quality with a virtual instruction just to pack the room.
We're doing the same thing. We have, our classes are usually pretty large. So we usually have a couple dozen call takers or dispatchers that come in at a time. And so what we're doing is the first part of it, a lot of the orientation book work is virtual, and then we're splitting the class up. So Monday, Wednesday, this 7 come in, and then Tuesday, Thursday, this 7 come in, and then Friday, everybody's virtual. And so we do, and I know a lot of centers, because I know my previous 2 centers, I didn't have this. We have a lot of space at my center, and so we have large classroom style, like big enough where we can literally social distance about 10 people. And so we have a media center, and we have a press room that we've kind of started using for that. And then a lot of the job, like you say, Tyrell, it has to be hands-on. Because the other thing that I was worried about, I'm very old school. We know they're paying attention online. I kind of sound like my mom when we started going on the computer. I feel so bad because I'm like, how are we keeping up with these kids and their own, but we're hoping that we could do the virtual, get some of that knowledge base and put some of that talk and diagrams, and then bring them in and let them watch them exercise what was being taught. Of course, this will be the first class that we're doing that. We actually push our class out a couple of months because we thought by now we'd be back to normal, but now I think this is going to be our normal. So we're kind of doing hybrid approaches to it, but there will come a time where they will be on the floor and they will be in with the call takers. And we do require masks in the call center.
Yeah, it's interesting how, you know, that it seems to be the thing that everyone is saying with the new norm, because we don't know when things are going to get back to the way they were, or if they will. And I think in my mind, and this goes for conferences as well, is that when things start lightening up, I guess, to put it that way, the in-person conferences will always be there, and those are going to start. But I think what you're going to end up seeing, and the same with training, is that there will be a hybrid model, like you're talking, where, you know, there'll be in person, but there's also going to be, you know, virtual as well, and you'll be going back and forth, because also you'll be able to, there'll be others that are out there that will be able to attend that might not have been able to. And then, you know, if you're if the center's short staffed, or there's just, I don't know, a lot of overtime or anything like that, then you've got kind of that on-demand model as well that you can go to, where now I know the hard part is, like you're saying, making sure that they're actually doing it, right? That they're actually doing all of it. And I'm sure there's a way, you know, to be able to get that as well. But I feel like there's going to be a hybrid type model that ends up coming out of all of this, with a lot of different things. Now, Jameson, with where you work and all, I mean, training, how is that also working with the the delivery? I mean, there's got to be a lot of hours that are packing in what you're doing.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that the difference for us here is that, you know, we have a wide variety of PSAPs. We have the majority, about 40% are smaller, medium-sized PSAPs, and we have like 5 or 6 that are pretty large centers. And those present different dynamics. And when you enter into a situation like COVID that it's killed all of our in-person training for the first half of 2020. We had several classes set up for supervisors, CTO, et cetera. We had to push those to the fall. But the problem with in-person courses in classrooms is that for about 5 or 6 years, we were seeing the same 15% of the people. We're seeing the same people come in over and over again, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that we had no depth. We had an all-star team, but we had no depth on the bench at all. And we weren't reaching the telecommunicator working midnight shifts 4 nights a week. And we weren't reaching the telecommunicator who is stuck on midnights or second shift on the weekends. And so our online training basically is like I look at the standpoint of a new car. I can change the oil in my car, and I have wrenches and stuff just like my dad did, but I can't work on it. It requires a computer to do that. It requires, things have changed drastically. And so I look at that from the same point as training, because there were so many people we weren't meeting. So we had to find a way, just like with 911, any device, anytime, any place, you can take training. We looked at the hours that were being taken and the time of day, and there was so much training being taken at 9 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 2 in the morning when they were getting off shift, 3 a.m. Nobody took training at 5 a.m., by the way, just so you know, nobody. 5 a.m., no. But at 8, 9 a.m., picking back up again. And we could see that trend over time and how it affected folks. And so if I had, let's say I've had 5 centers and just in the same region that said, I need training right now on HR issues, on how to protect my staff from COVID and how to respond to this and how to effectively manage a policy on this. Can you put one together for me? No, I can't. But what I can do is I can pull things from Nina, I can pull things from APCO, and I can put them together into a package for you. And I can send you the relevant information in a virtual format, and you can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was the power of virtual training. It's not that we're replacing anything, but we are supplementing that with additional tool sets. And you're right, Tyrell, it is 2020. And I think it's time for us to understand that there are other ways to deliver training to folks who can't make it to a conference. And that's the vast majority of our telecommunicators.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's why, especially now, you're seeing a lot of training organizations, as well as, state chapters, whether it be, or APCO or whichever, who are going into, that virtual setting. There's everyone who's out there, it seems like they are just dying for that training. They're looking for it. And especially if it's affordable, shit, they're going to go for it. and that's a good thing. And that's what I think, that's another good thing that has come out of this entire pandemic is to be able to do things like that. Now, on the other side of it, going past training, now talking more about, supporting each other. You always hear, be kind, be human. But with everything that's going on, I mean, how do we continue or just really, supporting each other, not just coming up saying, hello, how are you doing? What are some of the things that you're doing, Karima, in your center on just continuing to support your call takers and dispatchers?
So one of the things that I do prior to COVID that was really important to me, it was very draining for me, but it actually worked, is I literally have an open door policy. And I know people say they have an open door policy, but I for real, like, I reminded people that I had an open door policy, and I would put out office hours like, hey, this weekend, if you want to come by and chat with the director, you can. And people came in and they chatted. And so what I have found is that it's really important for the call takers and dispatchers to have someone hear them. I think as call takers and dispatchers, we hear other people all the time, and we deal with their problems all the time, and we never talk back, right? We're just regurgitators. We get the problem and we give it out. We get the problem and we give it out. And so I made that really part of my first step. And I'm still like that almost 5 years in. And it helps me make really conscious decisions because I don't always have the right idea going. Sometimes I'm headed down lane A and then I hear 2 or 4 of them coming in and I'm like, okay, A is not going to work, even though Karima thought it was going to work. But one of the things that's specific to COVID and this new way of life, when we first realized that COVID was going to be here for a while, so I guess 2 or 3 weeks into the first quarantine, we were sitting around, me and my executive team, and I was trying to think of what could we possibly do for the call takers and dispatchers? What is something we need to do? And I think Tyrell and I was on a webinar call, and the first thing I did was I gave 15 minutes on me, 15 minutes COVID on me. They don't get charged for it. It's not out their time. They just get an extra 15-minute break. And that was for my 911 call takers and my 311 call taker. And they literally can take it how they want to take it. You can take 15 minutes and be like, I'm taking my COVID break. They can go out to the back. They can walk around. They can go in their car. They can listen to music. They can take 3 5s. I need another 5-minute break. And they get 15 minutes just because COVID is here. And I think little things like that matter. It didn't cost me anything. I didn't have to go present a decision point memo to the mayor. It was just something that I can do, and for me to let them know that I know if I'm tired, I know you guys are tired, and I can get up and walk out, leave my desk whenever I felt, the need to leave my desk. And so just identifying little things like that, and also seeing what matters to them. I think sometimes we have these little ideas in our pockets, but it may not be what they need at that time. And so really, if you stay in contact with your team, and that's from your supervisors to the call takers, dispatchers, and just knowing what matters to them is huge. One of the things that I'll finish up here with this, but so lately, maybe I probably get to go on the floor like once every 2 weeks. I have enough time to just walk through the floor. It takes me a while, and I have 2 centers. So I feel like if I do it at one center, when I go to my other center, I got to do it to them too, because someone's going to call and say, the director was out here. You didn't come out. Okay. So when COVID happened, I didn't want to do too much close social distance because I'm a hugger and so I didn't go on the floor for a while because I was thinking, I don't want to. If somebody got it, what if I get it? They're like, Karima walked out here and talked. And so I didn't go on the floor for a while. And I started getting people like, you haven't been out here. And I was like, well, it's COVID. We're social distancing. They're like, but you got to come. And I was thinking, you know what? I thought they would have wanted me to stay away. But this was the time that they actually was like, you need, and so I've been conscious of that. But I realized I haven't went out there and walked on the floor because I have my mask on, but I go out there and I make sure I talk to them. So I think just understanding them, listening to them, feeling their pulse, and adapting to them and not always having them adapt to you is very important.
That is perfect. I mean, and I say that especially because I mean I can hear it in your voice how much you care. I see it as you're talking, and man, when I was in dispatch, we loved when our deputy director or even director would come in, because even if we were crazy busy, it was cool to know that they were just kind of watching over us, knowing that they knew that we were kicking ass and taking names, but the fact that they were there kind of recognizing just that looking over can also mean that recognition that we're doing a good job too. But just knowing that they were there, I say it all the time, it starts at the top. And if you are doing things like that, of course people are going to be wanting you to be in there as well, because it makes them feel good, and they want to do continue to do a good job. Not that anybody doesn't want to do a good job, but they just want to continue to do what they're doing and be the best in every way possible. So that is excellent there. I want to throw this up here so that you can see it on the screen. And Julie says that you sound more like a leader than a boss. We need more like you in our centers. So that is awesome right there. And then here from Sherry for all three of you, that truly admire your energy and wisdom. So this is good to have you all on here. Now, Tyrell, just kind of building on the same thing about support and your dispatchers and call takers, how are you working towards this?
Yeah, so the beginning of the COVID pandemic, once the city went into lockdown, it also meant the staff went into lockdown. And simple basic needs like eating, going to run errands became a struggle and put it in a lot of different level of stress. So we were able to partner with a local nonprofit and feed almost everybody every day, twice a day, both shifts, a full hot meal until ultimately we were able to lift the lockdown and people can leave the facility again. But more importantly, myself and my chief of staff, Dominique Curry, who's on watching right now, we at least by 11 o'clock every day, we walk the floor. And I don't care what's happening, what crisis is happening, I will walk out my office and we walk the floor. I make sure I stop at every single pod to say good morning. Hey, y'all, how you doing? And you can tell they look forward to it. Because if I happen to not do it one day, like today, I didn't get over there till like 1, I caught all kinds of hell. They were like, well, you don't love us, you didn't come. I was like, okay. So that just tells me that, that small, just simple gesture is making a large impact. The other thing is, during this time of hurricane season and any time that the agency has a significant increase in call volume, we would either go to level 2 staffing, we would restrict vacations. I didn't do that this time because I felt like it would be unsustainable to keep them at that pace for that extended amount of time. But what I did do was I changed the public expectation. With every press conference, I said, 1, don't call 911 unless there's a life-threatening emergency. And if you do, we're going to make you hang up and dial the right number so we can go take the next call that maybe is an emergency. But also, I told them, if you're calling 311, which right now we've seen about a 350% increase in call volume, we've increased our online ability. So everything you can do on the phone now, you can do online. I also told the public, you're going to have to wait. You're going to be prepared to expect a longer than normal wait time. And that's just going to have to be okay right now in the midst of a global pandemic. You upset that we didn't meet our 4-minute answer time. Trust me, we're not intentionally making people hold. We would love to get to every call as quickly as possible, but I'm not going to tell the staff they can't go to the bathroom. They can't take that extra 15. They can't take a walk around the facility when we know they're being mentally exhausted. The public, we just tell them straight up. And if you go back and look at every press conference, I tell them, you're going to have to wait. And that's not a message that we would normally put out there, but I felt it was important that the staff knew that I am not afraid of having that difficult conversation with the public to set their expectations. And I think since we've been doing this since March, we've taken over about 500,000 calls. I maybe gotten 2 complaints about hold time. Because I think there's an expectation. Now they know, okay, I'm calling, but they're busy. So I need to just put the phone on speaker and go do something else until they pick up. And that seems to be working for us.
I think that's one of the best ways to approach it, is to set those expectations, because what I learned in when I was dispatching was that the callers want you to be real with them. Don't bullshit them. If someone is I would have people say, where's the officer already? They're not here yet. And I would straight up tell them sometimes, they're not just sitting around the corner, they're coming from a couple townships away. So it's going to be a little bit. They're not just there yet. And I had found that being real with the callers would actually, they would take that a lot better than me saying something else. And they would usually go, oh, okay. Oh, well, I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, oh no, I understand. I know, you've got this going on. They're going as fast as they can to get to you. And that would, put some ease there. So what you're doing by setting that expectation already and letting them know that is key to be able to,
And
like
Ricardo, just real quick, what's different about this particular pandemic is the incident doesn't stop when they hang up. It continues when they go home. Because we've had employees lose family members to COVID, they die, or they've gotten COVID themselves, or their household has. Hell, I had it. Me and my husband had it. So it's not the traditional emergency. And so I think we all have quiet rooms or someplace, but we felt the need to make that space even more tranquil, even more place to decompress and be quiet. We moved it to a different place in the building, was tripled in size, added some aroma stuff, some water features, new furniture, just to really make it designed or really have the outcome that we were looking for when we put it in the first place.
Okay, I think I definitely do need to go and visit your center now. That sounds pretty awesome. But that is also good that you ended up moving it from where it was, because our quiet room that we had, I could still hear, everything that's going off. And sometimes I would leave the room to go back in. And I remember they would say, you're already done with, going, to your break or whichever, which we didn't always get a break. But if we did have a chance, I would try to take it as much as possible and just go and sit and chill in the quiet room for a moment. But I hear the phone ringing, or I hear, a tone go off, my ass is going to go back in there. And there wasn't a lot of that relaxation or tranquility that I might have wanted to. But I think if we had moved it in another area like you're talking, it probably would have been good, because I'm hearing it and I immediately want to go back in. So that's good. Now, Jameson, what are some of the things that you've heard from, like directors, I guess, and just maybe anything that you've experienced as well, but mostly from, directors that you've spoken to, supervisors, whichever, what are they doing to continue to support each other?
Well, that's really a tough question. Again, it's because we have such a varied state. I mean, we have metropolitan areas and then very, very rural areas. But you're seeing a lot of conversations going back and forth between directors. And this is something that nobody's really faced before on a large scale. And to see that they were leaning on each other, trying to figure out, okay, what do you do about taking the temperature of your people when they come in the door? How does that work? What are you doing about pay time off? Are you canceling, like Tyra talked about, are you canceling vacations? Are you requiring them to stay here? Are you going to shelter in place for 14 days inside the comm center? And so we saw that conversation going on. And I think that was probably the biggest force multiplier in COVID. It wasn't technology. It wasn't policies. It wasn't procedures. It wasn't training. It was relationships. And I think we find that in just about every disaster, the force multiplier is the relationship that started before the disaster even came about.
Yeah, it's all over social media. How the relationships and friendships, how to keep the support going, how to just to continue to be there for each other. And stuff like this, what we're doing now, this is good to get all this information out there. I mean, you see it in the comments. Everyone is throwing stuff in there. It looks like some are saying they want to move to the south as well to to be working and everything, which is good. I mean, just even that alone, that speaks volumes. That's the type of leadership that we need and to continue to build upon. Now, speaking of leadership, kind of segueing now into leadership and all, women in public safety. Karima, what have you seen and also experienced? A lot has changed. There's this movement really that's going on. There are different groups. There's the 911 Wonder Women. Nina has Women in 911. There's a lot that is going on, and with women in leadership, and especially in 911. What are some of the changes that you've seen, and how it's affected you, or how the contribution? Either one. How have you seen this going?
Sure. So first, I would say that there has always been women in leadership and public safety. We just didn't have the title. And so most of 911 specifically is women. What you had was most 911 centers were under fire and police departments. And so you usually had a comms chief or someone who was halfway out the door to retire, and they got put over comms. And so you had these leaders in 911 that really didn't come up in 911. Because as most people come up in 911, there are women, but we do have our males. And I've always, actually in Augusta, Georgia, I probably had the heftiest male population, which was really cool, of the shifts. But what I have seen is the 911 Wonder Women, Sarah Weston's, the Women in 911 with Nina, which I have touched on both of them. And I think that is very, very, very important to have that. I think that the world in general is changing with women leadership. And so now we have our space, and we made that space. And I think now we are able to be heard. I also think that it's very important that we do have a relationship with our brothers. I am definitely one of those women that uplift my sisters, and I uplift my brothers of all races, because I think it's important just to have the diversity there. I wouldn't want to work somewhere where there's all women. I wouldn't want to work somewhere where there's all men. I want to work somewhere where there's all blacks I want all of us in together. And the places that I've worked are very diverse. And usually in the groupings that I am in that are very diverse, that's when we get the most work done. I seem to be a very unique situation, how I ended up all the way to DC in my space. But I don't think that nothing that I done was very unique. I think that there was blockades in place. And so a lot of our sisters just were not able to get past those blockades. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and I actually was talking to Sarah, I think she's on the podcast. Is she on now, Sarah?
Yeah,
hey, Sarah.
Yeah, she's in there.
Okay. I was talking to her the other day, and I was telling her, I said, one of the things that I always said that I wanted to do when I was younger, I would see women like me, and they never talked to me. I would see them in whatever setting, whether I went to the city to do something, and I would see this lady in this office, and I'm like, what does she do? They never talk to me. And so I make a conscious effort to acknowledge those young ladies. I start the conversation with them. And so I enjoy different spaces where I can do that, because I'm very, very busy. And so I don't have a lot of time like I would want, but any chance I get just to speak back and talk to, my young ladies on how to maneuver and how to get through systems, I try and do that. And every time I speak on women, one of the things that I always say, which helps our young women, which is something that I learned a little later in my career, was confidence is so important. I think men, fortunately for you guys throughout school and everything, you guys are taught confidence. We're taught, don't talk so loud, calm down, sit nice. It's not that serious. Let it go. And you guys are like, take charge. You're in charge. Don't let no one hurt your mama. Don't let no one hurt your sister. And so you guys get confidence. We have to go and find confidence. And so one of the things that I always teach my sisters, and I teach the young ladies in my family, is confidence. And the way you get confidence is knowledge. I do not go and speak in front of anyone without knowing the whole subject. I read, whether I'm getting talking points from my assistant or my PIO, I go read it myself. I'm comfortable with it. I believe it. I understand it. And so when I stand up there and I talk, I'm confident. because I know I have researched every nook and cranny about everything about this subject. So I'm confident. And so if I had to put one word out there for sisters, our young ladies that are moving up or trying to move up, is confidence. As long as you have that knowledge, you will have the confidence.
Damn. I should, you know what I should do? I should keep a microphone, an extra microphone here, so that I can actually drop it.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. I don't know if either one of you want to build on that, because that was amazing. Like, I got goosebumps.
What she said.
Yeah.
I was typing in the comments, girl. Go ahead.
No, that right there, that is amazing. There are so many comments in here. I can't even go through them, but fully everything that you said, I can't even add anything to that because you're right. I mean, everything that you said, and it's an exciting time, and it's exactly what you said. Sarah ended up let me see if I can go back to it right here. This right here, that is what she quoted you right away. We've always had women leaders in 911, but just didn't have the title. And damn, it's another example of what I had mentioned with, it's a new day. You know, things are changing. This movement is going, and the leadership is just amazing. So thank you for speaking on that. And again, either one of you want to jump on? Like, no, just preach it. We're good to go.
I know better.
Great leadership. Look, I have come from district government, and Kareem is right. Blockades are true. But as much as people hate to say it, the skill of political savviness is important. People can say all day long, I don't like to play politics. This is a game you're going to have to learn, but learn how to win it. Why avoid those political conversations? No, people want leaders that have a position, that have a stance, and that are willing to defend that stance, but also listen at the same time. And I find playing it safe is beginning to backfire on some people.
Right.
As the late Representative John Lewis said, get into some good trouble. Now is the time to get into some good damn trouble. Let's go.
And I think that's right too, because we teach our telecommunicators, you know, that on certain call types, you're the voice of authority. Right? Mm-hmm. Practice that voice of authority. Use that voice of authority, and then we promote them into positions, and we're like, shh, no, you know your business, you know your needs. You should be up there with that voice of authority, stating those needs. Because I cringe when there is a certain amount of new money in the budget, and it's like, we need 16 more patrol cars. Good. We also are going to have 3 more telecommunicators for the 15 officers you just hired. So how does this balance out? Well, y'all work in an office, and no. We are the central nervous system of every response in this jurisdiction. Make sure you take care of us. And we have to have that voice of authority when we go out and talk about. I love that quote. Absolutely get involved in the politics of this, because politics, again, is another tool set that we shy away from because, you know, we're worried about our job position. If we're not being involved in that process, we shouldn't be in that position anyway.
Right. Well, excellent. We're coming up onto the last couple topics here that I want to touch on. And this, again, already has been an amazing round. Thank you all 3 of you for jumping on here. And it just makes it that much more exciting for Dare to Be Great 2 that's coming up in October. So I want to touch on really quick about the short staffing issue. You know, how do we, this has always been an issue, right? I started in 2001 and, you know, finished in 2013. And even then, I think when I left, we were right at the spot that we were supposed to be. But throughout the whole time, we had been struggling. You know, there's a lot of turnover. We're trying to keep people, and there was just tons of overtime. Morale was down. In a toxic environment, there was a lot of different things, but it just continues, and it seems, and we continue to talk about it. There's a lot of it. So this isn't an old subject. This is something that's definitely been out there for a while. So how do we kind of, battle this short staffing issue and keep dispatchers and call takers, from leaving? Is it more training? Is it, higher pay? What exactly is it in your minds? What are some of the things that we can do? Jameson, let's start with you.
Thanks, Ricardo. I'm just going to piggyback off what they're going to say. No, I totally understand. So in Tennessee currently right now, we have about a 15% vacancy rate across the state in our telecommunicator positions. And we know that about 15% more are probably going to leave in the next 12 months. That's huge. That's a constant turnover that we have to handle every single month or every single year. I think that one of the approaches that we can take, we can talk about funding, we can talk about pay, we can talk about training. But I think that we do have to invest in our people. And even in the smaller comm centers, we took some risks, right? We had small staff, but we were able to work around their schedule so that they could go and become an RN. Or they can go and maybe get some kind of other degree in public safety or criminal justice. And people are always asking, why are you breaking your neck trying to work around their schedules when they're just going to leave you? Because when they leave us, we've got an advocate in 911 out in the community serving. And now those voices become a chorus over time. And we have to kind of rethink that process about we're probably never going to see a huge influx of 30-year telecommunicators in the next 5 years. They're just not going to stick around. So how can we invest in them and ask them, if you can give me 2 more years or maybe 3 more years beyond this, then I will help support you in every way possible. In closing, in Tennessee, we did a great thing a couple of years ago where if you're a telecommunicator, you can go to college online. We will use the hours that you for training that you have in 911. We will give you college credit for that. And we're going to give you a specialized rate of $250 per hour for course credit. And you can go online and get all of your credits that you need, and we'll help you get your degree. And then many local agencies said, you know what, if you'll do that, we'll pay you back if you promise to stay here 2 years beyond getting your degree. Man, what a fantastic idea. It didn't even have to be public safety. It could have been accounting. But to have somebody on staff who was committed to the process of growing themselves, but also growing your comm center. And then when they leave, man, everywhere you go, you don't talk about those folks who become, commissioners or become city employees or whatever else. They're constantly talking about, you know what? I love 911. That was the best years of my life. And they supported me, and I'm going to support them the rest of my career.
Perfect. Karima, how about you?
So I would say I actually was reading the comments while I was listening to Jamie, and 2 people I have 3 things, I think. So 2 people, Ken Stewart and Dan, put proper classification. We have to make 911 a career. They don't think of us as a career. This is how I get into public safety. We are public safety. And so I think that starts definitely with classification, and we are the first responders. And I think that's very important, because then you make it a career. I came into 911 not thinking it was going to be a career, and I made a career out of it. And so I think that's number 1. And then I saw Miss Dottie Baldwin put stop the us versus them mentality, more teamwork and acknowledge people. That is very important to me. So before I bring in a new class, we remind our tenured, seasoned employees, this is not Shark Tank. They are not coming in here to pass the ritual of being a dispatcher. When they pass the class, they pass the ritual. They are dispatchers just like you. And so that's really important, working on morale and making sure that those new call takers are coming in and they're being loved on. And if they're not, they have a route to get that message out and let us know. So I think that's very important. Working on your organizational culture will help with that. And so you're making sure that it's a literal culture. If you have it all separated, then it's not a culture. And so you want to make it a culture. It's us. They hear me, I say my babies. It's all of us. It's not my fire dispatchers, my MP. No, it's us. So we're all in this together. When I first got there, one of the things they would say is, when I didn't know them, I would say, well, what's your name? And where do you work? And they say, well, my name is Tammy and I'm on red team. And I'm like, I got that out of there. Everybody's OUC. And then the last thing, we did a study in the region. So in COG, around DC, there's about 14 different PSAPs. And we did a study to see the attrition rate, and it was close to like Jamie says he sees in Tennessee. And there was about, the average was between 15 and 17% turnover rate, and DC had under 5%. We were like, they come and they stay. And so we lined up and said, what is different with DC? Our pay is much higher. And so that does help too. And so I got to throw that out there, that if you, and that money comes with the career, making sure your stakeholders and your executives know that we're public safety too. And so I think that out of those three things, the culture, making it a career, we are a career, or acknowledging or reminding everybody that we're a career. And then of course, money helps.
Definitely. Now, when just listening to you, talk about everything that you're saying there, it made me think of when I was at my last dispatch center, when I was training. I almost quit because I had 3 different trainers, and the training is not like this now. It is completely different now, and it is really good there. They've come a long way, but when I would be with one trainer, I was learning a certain way. Excuse me. And then when I would go to the next trainer, I wasn't doing it right. It wasn't that I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing it the way that person wanted me to do it. So that whole issue there was one thing. The other thing was the fact that no one talked to me. I was only attached to my trainer. I could only speak to that person, which I understand. But what I was hoping for was to kind of have that team mentality already. Because then I felt like I was part of the team, like people actually wanted me to be there, right? But it wasn't like that, and it got to a point where I spoke to a coworker who is actually someone that I grew up with and went to school with. It's funny that we ended up working together later on in dispatch, but I asked her and I said, "Is it supposed to be like this? Because I feel like I'm just like not wanted here, and I don't know if I want to continue this. If we're not going to be a team, then what the hell are we doing?" And she goes, "No, that's just the way they do it here. Just, get to it. When you get to phase 4, to the shadow phase, then it's you and the rest of the team, and the trainer is just watching you from beyond." Now, that was one of those things where I thought, man, it would be better if we did it a different way, where, kind of how you're saying, kind of love on each other when the new ones come in, embrace them. It's just like some of the stuff on social media where you see someone put out there, "Hey, I just finished with, or I just got hired in and I'm heading into training. Can you give me some advice?" And you end up seeing responses like, "Run. You don't want to do this," or whatever. Like, no, that's not what you want to. I know you might be joking, and some of you might be for real, but damn, like, you want people to stay, right? So, Tyrell, how about you?
People texting me, telling me keep still. I was just so antsy to get these thoughts as I had write them on paper. At the end of the day, make people want to work for you. Mm-hmm. So, in New Orleans in the past 2 years, we ain't had no staffing issue. We good. Now, we've been able to recruit just as quickly as people leave us or retire, per se. I mean, more recently, we had about a 3-month hiring freeze just to save some expenses for COVID. But we're beyond that. Our next class starts in a few weeks. So we'll be back to the levels. But I'm like Karima, people come here and stay. But also, I make it clear to everybody, I am only interested in employing people who want to be gladiators. If you do not come to work here to be a true emergency communications professional, you are identified and plucked out of the litter sooner rather than later. This is not a holdover job. When people in the interview, "What's a stepping stone?" I ain't trying to be your stepping stone to something else. If you have not identified this as a career, then I don't want you. But also, as an industry, we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot by having these ridiculous entrance requirements. For example, we have some agencies that are still running credit checks. You mean to tell me you got to have perfect credit to answer a 911 call? And as if that speaks to how they're going to respond to as an employee. And I will tell you, this whole idea of running background checks, and we have these standards, some of our returning citizens back to society are some of the hardest working, most dedicated employees that any company will ever experience. And so we have got to get out of this mentality of this box that, we look for this certain kind of person, got to live a perfect life. They can't ever have stolen their life or lied to their pastor. BS, those people don't exist. So let's meet them where they are and really evaluate who they are at the core. And if they want this bad enough, they'll gladiate for you. And then finally, the one unique benefit that we offer, our pay is kind of middle to the state. Not really, it's not top, but damn sure ain't bottom, it's kind of middle. But we offer student loan repayment assistance. People entering the workforce now, they can care damn about retirement. They need assistance repaying student loans. So after 1 year of good quality service, as long as you haven't been suspended, the agency will pay $100 to your student loan principal every month, as long as you remain in good standing. For some people, that has made life for them so much enjoyable. Means they will come in. I mean, $100 to some of us ain't nothing, but to some people is a lot of relief. And so they really, but it also incentivizes good behavior, because the moment you get suspended for something, those payments stop for 6 months. But we have to continue to meet people where they are and check ourselves a little bit. Are we beginning to shoot ourselves in the foot by turning really good candidates away? We've been in the industry enough to know to identify somebody who is not a good fit. How you present today is what I'm judging. I'm not hiring the person you were 10 years ago. I'm making a hiring decision on who you are presenting yourself as today.
Man, I almost don't want to stop this conversation. It's been so good. But we're on to the last topic here. We're going into the wrap up of this round 7. And again, this has been amazing. And I am so excited for the conference and to have all three of you speak. And this is kind of I think that all three of you have answered this question numerous times and on a bunch of other different events that you've done. So as we look at everything right now, excuse me, where do you see 911 in even just a year from now? The future, looking into the future, whether it be technology, training, any aspect of 911, especially with what we're dealing with right now, in just 1 year, where do you see it? I mean, I could ask you 5 years from now and it'd be that broad, but just a year from now, where do you think 911 is going to be in any aspect? Tyrell, let's just start with you.
911 won't be what it is today, but I think that's a given. I think we really will be the gateway to government. And as more and more, like, for example, that's our tagline now. We are your gateway to government, and we wear that responsibility proudly. Whether you call 911 or 311, if you need service, you're going to interact with us in some sort of way. So let's take an opportunity to own that and shape that experience for what it is. But for those organizations that aren't really in the 311 side, particularly specific to 911, there is an expectation that we become more like analysts, problem solvers. We are part of the criminal justice continuum now. We're part of the stopping the fire from spreading. We're the one that had to do the predictive analysis to determine if we sent the right amount of fire resources. All of that intelligence that we relied on field responders. Our systems are becoming more sophisticated, but almost all of the sophistication is happening in the PSAP. So the people are going to have to be a little more sophisticated. They're going to need more tools in their arsenal to handle the problems. And this job is going to outgrow some people. Some people are not going to be able to keep up. And we just have to have that conversation. It's going to be difficult, but we need to have it. Now, I'm not saying we let them go, but let's put them in an environment or role or restrict their duties to the things that we know they're going to be successful at.
Excellent. Now, Jameson, how about you?
So I think he had some very good points there. I think from the standpoint of technology, we have so many states that are on the cusp of coming out with their next generation 911 networks, right? And I think we'll see RFPs like we saw in California that change the landscape. But I've always said that really the goal in the coming year or two is actionable data that is delivered in a timely manner to the PSAP that's geo-referenced. And I think that we'll start seeing more of that, particularly from connected devices, but a lot more of that coming into the comm center. And Tyrell's right. It's the people we hire are going to look for that. They want to be a part of that process. And the third thing I'd like to see, you didn't ask me what I'd like to see, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The third thing I would like to see is the move away from punitive quality assurance to quality assurance based upon gamification. So as you're answering the call, it's racking up points for you. And as you're using additional data, as you're using EMD, as you're actually going out and looking at call history from this person, it actually says, oh, good job, good job, good job, good job. And when you close that call, you get a score. Like, great job, man. The average is 96 and you did 98.7. And so that process of pulling in things we see in the common world, that we see on games that we play on our phone every single day, where it feeds that need. I want to do better. I want to have better rewards. We can do that in a 911 center in an appropriate way. And so I think that's where we can lead to improve not only call times, but also improve the work environment for our telecommunicators.
Man, I was just imagining that in my head. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely can work the same way there. That is an excellent concept. Now, wrapping it up with Karima, what are your thoughts?
So what I just heard Jamie say was definitely AI, which is huge. And I think that is exactly what the 911 center is becoming. It's no longer going to be a 911 center. I think that eventually we're going to actually see how when I started in 911 in like 1999, when no one used cell phones and no one called 911. I mean, everyone was calling 911. I think it's going to actually be the opposite. No one's going to pick up and call 911. They're going to just send their message and send their video. And so I think that we're definitely going to graduate and end up being more of, to touch on what Tyrell said, like this intelligence analyst center. And everything comes in, we filter and play with it and decide where it's going to go, and we spit it back out with some intelligent data for our responders. And so when you think about that, I think what happens is the 911 call center becomes the incident commander in the end. I think one of the things that I know, even back when I was a dispatcher, was I knew more than almost everyone out there, right? I could see every single screen. I knew who was coming, who was going, who was already there. Just ask me. I could tell you. And you still had the officers or the firemen going over radio. Where you at, engine 20? You know, you're on your way. He'll be there in 12 seconds, you know? And so I think that we're going to turn into this whole, and I think it's needed. I think, you know, all of us are probably scared to death. We were scared to death about texting 911. It was nothing. It turned out to be nothing. 5 years ago, we were like, we don't want people texting 911. But it turned out to be, we can handle it. We can do it. And so I think that we're just going to really evolve into this fusion center type communication center. And I agree. I think Tyrell and I both are sort of unique, but it's becoming pretty common, or is gaining momentum across the 911 center, where we do 311 too. And so pretty much if you need anything in DC, you're going to call 911 or 311. And so I have a couple of hundred call takers on the floor. They're handling both those type of calls. And so I think that 911 centers will go to that. And I think that's also important. One of the things that we do is our 311 call takers usually get promoted up to 911. And you know what they bring with them? Customer service. They had no call, so they already had that, you know. Yes, okay, we're on the way, you know. And that's something that's really hard, because I'm a 911 call taker. I was really jaded over the phone. It's a hard thing to train a 911 call taker to do. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is all of this is going to be punctuated, if it hasn't already been punctuated, by social media. So like Jamie said, we need real time. You got a 98, you did that call right, because someone may tweet out that same call before the officers even get there. And so I'm already, when things happen, I'm already trying to figure out why the call is still going on, what were my times, how long, things like that. The other thing that I'm really proud of, and I think we're getting away from, and I get beat up about it a lot, and I have to constantly go and say, is getting away from this rush. How fast did you get there? I got all the information. We got the address right. We got everything. We sent the right complement of apparatus. Everybody got there. That's what's important, because when you rush our call takers and you tell them to get a call in 10 seconds, 50 seconds, 30 seconds, things are going to happen. And so I think we're getting away from that and talking about how important it is, because you know what? It took me 2 minutes to get that address, but when I got it, my units got there in 3 minutes. Now, what if I would have took a minute, got the address, got it wrong, the unit got there, turned around, had to send another unit. Now we're pushing out 7, 8, 10 minutes. And so I think that that's really important. And I think us as leaders, it's our job to educate them, to educate the public, so they'll know what to expect and watch us grow.
Man, this has been, like I said already, this has been an excellent round. Thank you, all three of you, for being on. And there you have it, audience. These are your keynote speakers for Dare to Be Great 2. No more teasing. Here it is. Here are all three of them, and I am excited. I hope that you're excited as well. For the three of you, again, thank you very much for being on. I'm going to bring you back on here in just one moment, so I'll be right back with you all. And thank you for joining us for round 7 of the Dispatchers Roundtable. This has been an amazing conversation, and any questions that you have, even in the replay, you can continue to throw them into the comments. We'll be able to see them, and the tags and everything else. Again, this has been excellent. I don't even know what to say. This has been really good. We went through a lot of different things, but again, these are your keynote speakers for Dare to Be Great 2, and I hope you are as stoked as I am for October. Again, it's going to be October 6th through the 9th. It is going to be excellent. So for all of you who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This show will always be free, but if you're looking for any bonus content, you can head over to patreon.com/WTT Podcast. There is so much that you can get from there. So please make sure to check it out. I wouldn't be able to do everything that I'm doing without patrons, the support from all of you who watch and listen to the podcast, as well as In Digital for this show here, sponsored by In Digital. Thank you so much for that. And for the audio version, it can be heard on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and Within the Trenches. The video can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Have an excellent one, and get ready, because Dare to Be Great 2 is going to be an excellent one. Have a good night, everyone.